So we want to, sorry, my mic was off. So about 7:30ish, we're going to have a guest come on. She's going to talk about some things going on in the Frederick County Public Schools. She's a Board of Education candidate here, and it's important to hear it because what's happening in Frederick County is happening everywhere. It's not just a little bit happening in Frederick County and every other school system is fine. That's not the case. What's happening here is going to be going around to every other public school across the country eventually. It's just how it goes. So about 7:30, Jamie Brennan will be on. She was on before. We'll bring her on and we'll talk to her about 7:30. So before then, there's some things I wanted to talk about and go over. And I guess we'll kind of stay. Well, no, the thing I really want to talk about, because I thought it was funny. I don't know if any of you heard or saw the Oprah Winfrey interview with Kamala Harris. And then she had her rambling BS answer. And I just wanted to read it to you in case you hadn't heard it. The question that was posed to her, Vice President Harris, was, what is on your heart to say to the American people? Of course, was it sex trafficker's best friend, Oprah Winfrey, asked, have you noticed she knows a lot of people who are like sexual deviants? Like a lot. I don't know anyone to my knowledge, but she knows some very famous ones. But that's another story. But that was a question. What is on your heart to say to the American people? That was from Oprah Winfrey to Kamala Harris. And here's Kamala Harris's response. I'm not making this up. I'm not adding anything to it. You're going to hear exactly what she said. Kamala Harris, we love our country. I love our country. I know we all do. That's why everyone's here right now. We love our country. We take pride in the privilege of being an American, and this is a moment where we can and must come together as Americans, understanding that we have so much more in common than what separates us. Let's come together with the character that we are so proud of about who we are, which is we are an optimistic people. We are an optimistic people. Americans by character are people who have dreams and ambitions and aspirations. We believe in what is possible. We believe in what can be, and we believe in fighting for that. That's how we came into being, because the people before us understood that one of the greatest expressions for love of our country, one of the greatest expressions of patriotism, is to fight for the ideals of who we are, which includes freedom to make decisions about your own body, freedom to be safe from gun violence, freedom to have access to the ballot box, freedom to be who you are and just be the love, who you love, openly and with pride, freedom to just be. That was her answer. And when you see her actually saying the stuff, it's a little different, because you just look at it and you're like, how do you dress yourself in the morning? Or does somebody have to help you with that? She rambles and she laughs a lot when you ask a question she's not able to answer. She'll laugh and make a joke. Or if she says something that she probably shouldn't have said, she'll laugh and like, my staff will take care of that, whatever, Like when she said during that interview, if somebody breaks into my house, I'm going to shoot him. But she can't say what kind of gun she has or anything like that. Kamala Harris is a joke. She is truly, truly a joke. She's also hypocritical. Kamala Harris is hypocritical. I'm reading my notes, so I'm not just staring at the ground. Kamala Harris is hypocritical in her message regarding bodily autonomy. While she advocates for a woman's right to choose regarding abortions, arguing that the government should not interfere with personal decisions, she openly supported the mandate for COVID-19 vaccinations. So I guess it's okay to force experimental drugs on people if the government says so, but you can't tell people they can't have abortions. That's another thing. And I have to say this every time we talk, because it's like people forget. Roe versus Wade didn't outlaw abortions. All that did was take that decision away from the federal government and gave it back to the states, where it should have been all along. So there's no ban on abortions across the U.S. It's now an individual state that will make up their own rules when it comes to abortion. Just like Trump has said, he's not for a national ban. He's leaving it up to the states, because that's where it should be. It's a state decision, not a federal government decision. And it never should have been. But you've got idiots out there that don't understand that and think Roe versus Wade being overturned banned abortions. It did not. I live in Maryland. They will always have abortions there. There will never be a time when Maryland will outlaw abortions. It's just not going to happen. So they're just fear mongering and they're using buzzwords because they know the left is very emotional. So they got to say a few words correctly and they'll get them all fired up and they'll be out there screaming and yelling. Oh, they're going to ban abortion. No one's banning abortions. No one telling you can't get an abortion. It's up to your state. Government's no longer involved. Federal government's no longer involved. And they should have never been anyway. It's not their decision. But yeah, Harris is an idiot. I mean, really, I can't think of a better way to describe her. And I'm seeing polls now that say she's up by like 4 or 5 points. That's BS. She's not up. And don't you believe it either. They're trying to convince you, or they're trying to scare you into not voting by telling you, hey, your vote's not going to count. Look, Trump is losing. Don't even bother coming out. It's a foregone conclusion. Go out and vote. Bring your family to vote. Bring your friends to vote. Like I said, if you need a ride and you're around me, I'll come pick you up, bring you to the vote, to the polls. Go out and vote. Don't listen to anybody else. We need to vote. We need to stop listening to other people that say, oh, he's going to win, and then go, oh, then I don't need to be there. Hundreds of other people are going to vote, so I'm okay. You need to vote. I can't stress that enough. You need to be out November 5th voting. It's really that simple. Unless you want Kamala Harris, that moron, running the show. And if you do, then yeah, you don't have to come vote. You can stay home. But also keep in mind, if you don't vote for that, you got no rights to complain anymore. If you stay at home. That was my taking my knee brace off. I'm sorry if that goes loud. So vote. Tell your friends to go vote. Tell your family to go vote. Tell people you don't work with to go vote. Tell people you don't know to go vote. Vote. A lot of people died to make sure you had that right. You should exercise it. Just my humble opinion. I don't know if you've been following the news, but Israel, and I don't know how they did it. It's extremely impressive, and I doubt they'll ever tell us how they did it. But they detonated pagers that Hezbollah, Hamas people had on them, and they detonated them and killed a few hundred people and injured a lot. And then I think 2 days later, they detonated walkie-talkies they were using and killed some more folks. Don't know how they did it. I think it's ingenious. I don't think it's ever happened before. And then in retaliation, Hezbollah started launching rockets into Israel, northern Israel, and Israel's retaliating. And now they're afraid it's going to spread. It's already spread. I don't know why these people are so afraid. It's spread. Israel's being attacked by 2 different terrorist groups. As soon as they detonated those pagers, everybody was, oh, that's ridiculous. You got to, restraint. Hezbollah started launching rockets into northern Israel. Nothing. Nobody said a word. As soon as Israel started firing back, then we're worried about an all-out war now. We're going to monitor the situation and make sure everybody just needs to shut the hell up. Really, leave them alone. I mean, if you're not going to help Israel, be quiet. The best thing you can do is be quiet. They're fighting 2 terrorist organizations. No other countries offered the help. Every country should be jumping in, going, hey, we'll help you. We'll help you kill these people because killing them is going to help us too. They're terrorists. I don't know why what the concern over them is. I don't get it. They started this. Israel's going to finish it. Leave them alone. Let Israel do what they got to do. If you're not going to help, get out of the way and be quiet. I can't believe the Biden administration has the balls to say anything because we've yet to try to get our own hostages safe. We're letting Israel do it. Biden and his group need to be quiet. They should be ashamed and embarrassed about how they've handled this entire situation. They're letting another country try to rescue our hostages, and then we're going to give them a hard time about the way they're trying to rescue our countrymen. They need to shut up. It's embarrassing. Our government at this point is an embarrassment. And if you don't vote, Kamala Harris gets reelected, is going to be a continuation of the embarrassing government we have because she is not a leader. I don't know how anybody can listen to her speak for more than 5 minutes and think that she's a leader. She's not a leader. She doesn't know what she's doing half the time. She's an idiot. She's a liar. She flip-flops on almost everything. First, she doesn't agree with fracking, and I can tell you when that happened. It was in 2019 when she ran for the primary for the presidency for the Democrats. She said she would support banning fracking in 2019. There is no question. I am in favor of banning fracking. And then she tells you she's never said that and she's not going to do it. The woman's a liar. Flat out liar. She's not even a good liar. So yeah, she's talked about banning fracking. And then she's an interview. She's talking about, just because you own a gun legally doesn't mean we're not going to go into your house and check it to make sure. She doesn't want anybody to have guns, but now she owns a gun and she would shoot an intruder. Only liberals would believe any of that stuff. Only a moron with the IQ of a soda can would believe anything she says at this point. She's not honest. She's accused Trump of wanting to institute a nationwide abortion ban. And he said several times he's not getting involved with that. That's a state issue. And he's going to leave it up to the states. It just seems the bigger the lie, the more the liberals believe it. It's got to be some outlandish, crazy lie, and then they'll believe it. Yeah, it says former President Donald Trump said Monday he believes abortion limits should be left to the states, outlining his position in a video when he later declined to endorse a national ban after months of mixed messages and speculation. It should be left to the states. State decision, not a federal government decision. They shouldn't be involved in it. I think that's the best way to do it. But people are going to tell you that he wants a nationwide ban, and he hasn't seen. Just heard him. He's not involved. It's up to the states. That's where he's going to leave it. But like I said, the bigger the lie, the more that liberals believe it. So I guess they got to make them huge lies now. I guess the next thing they're going to say is Donald Trump is like the second gunman on the grassy knoll when Kennedy was assassinated. Yes, I'm dating myself. I'm old. I can remember that. Some people watching this may not know what that is. But I'm sure they're going to, if there's a dog that gets hit in the neighborhood, they're going to blame Trump. It doesn't matter at this point what he does. They're going to blame him for it. So don't listen to anything everybody says. And I think at this point, most people know who they're voting for. I really don't think people are still kind of like, I'm on the fence. I don't know who I'm going to vote for. Is it going to be Trump? Is it going to be Harris? I really don't know. No, I think most people at this point have got their money on who they're betting on who they want to win now. They know they're not going to worry about it. We love our country. Oh, what was the other thing she said? I was born to a middle-class family. I mean, she's comical if nothing else. I mean, she's good for a laugh, but we got to vote. Make sure she doesn't get into office or it won't be so funny then. If she's running the show, it's going to be a little dangerous. And speaking about the election, Arizona High Court's rules that nearly 98,000 people whose citizenship hadn't been confirmed can still vote the full ballot come November. Why do we even have laws? Why do we have laws if the courts are just going to turn around and piss all over these laws? Like, don't worry about it. You can vote. It doesn't matter. It's like where I live in Frederick County, the city council has decided to allow non-citizens, illegals, to vote in city elections. I mean, why? Like I said, why do we have rules anymore? Why had the Constitution? Nobody's listening to it. Kamala Harris is definitely not going to support the Constitution. So we do. That's why we're here. We're here to make sure you understand that the Constitution is important. It's not something we use when it's convenient. It's the law of the land. And it's there for the government, not for us. It's not there to set limits on us. It's there to set limits on the government. And they're just pissing all over and doing what they want to do. It's okay if you're not a citizen. You can vote. Doesn't matter. It's okay if you're not a citizen. We're going to pass a law against the Constitution that will allow you to vote. It doesn't matter. The government does what it wants to do when it wants to do it. And not enough people are standing up and screaming, you got to say something, fight back. I don't get it. And I'm reading comments. I'm sorry. I'm not ignoring anybody. Yeah. I don't know. It's getting to the point where Republicans and I'm going to say this, it might offend some people, Republicans are lazy. We just don't go do anything. Democrats, now I'll give it to them. They mobilize, get their people together quickly, and they go where they got to go when they got to go there. They're that good. Republicans, if I'm not busy, I'll be there. And we got to get over that mentality. We have to start being accountable. We need to be involved. We need to be just as loud as the Democrats. All of us, not some of us, not just the guys on the Patriot Prayers Network. Everybody has got to get up and be loud and be heard and make their voices be known. We just can't sit on the sidelines anymore waiting for somebody else to do it. because then we're going to get 4 more years of Biden. We're going to get Kamala Harris and tampon man, whatever, Waltz. And his name, I put tampons in the boys' bathroom. I mean, this is the type of people that will be taking over this country if we don't vote en masse November 5th. It's that simple. It's time for a change, and we have to be that change. I hate saying that. Gandhi said, be the change you want to see, and I completely agree with it. If we want to have more common sense and more law-abiding politicians, which is kind of funny when you say it out loud, then we need to vote for that. We need to get away from the Democrats and the liberals because they're not doing it for us. They're more worried about people who aren't even citizens in this country. I mean, that's the bottom line. They're more concerned about illegal aliens and their rights, getting rights of citizens when it's against the Constitution. It's that simple. I mean, I get on here every weekend and I say the same things, and I know most of you listen. I really do, but there's people out there that don't. And that's what's frustrating. I mean, Arizona, doesn't matter if they can prove you're a citizen or not, 98,000 people will be allowed to vote. They're not going to stop. Why not? Why should you be allowed to vote if there's a question about your citizenship? You can't vote till sorry. It's not on us to prove that you can vote. It's on you to prove you can vote. It's not my responsibility. It's nobody's responsibility. And if you're over here illegally, you should not be allowed to vote. End of discussion. Nothing else to say. But that's not how libs see it, because that's buying votes for them, and they know it. They know it. It's that simple. And you are correct, Dan NY. Everyone's got to vote. Everybody. Don't depend on your neighbor going, you go. Bring your neighbor. Like I said, if you need a ride and you're local to me, I'll bring you to the polls. I don't care. We need to vote. We need to stop. We need to right the course here. The ship is floundering. We need to get a captain that knows what's got to be done and do it. We can't do 4 more years of this. I'm telling you, if we do 4 more years, it'll turn to 4 more years, and then it'll turn to 4 more, and it will turn to 4 more, and then the country's done. This is where we got to make our stand. This is where we put up our fight. Right here. It's really that simple. And I know y'all hate hearing me say it over and over and over again, but it's got to be said. All right. So we got to pay the bills, and we'll be right back.
Since the beginning of time, all living creatures rely on the sun's source of natural light to grow and to help promote overall wellness. We are all light beings. The patches are all natural and drug-free that uses the body's own natural light to help promote general health and wellness. How it works. Simply place the patch on specific points on your body and where the patch is placed on your skin. It reflects back into the body when it's tapped into its own flow of natural energy, which in turn creates the GHK-Cu copper peptide, which rejuvenates your cells and gives you a more younger, healthier you.
It's good stuff. It works. I got a bad knee. Well, I'll always have a bad knee, but that does help. I will say that. Try it. I mean, what do you got to lose? Be in pain or don't be in pain. That's a decision it comes to. Do you want to be in pain? I don't want to be in pain. And I definitely don't want to take pharmaceuticals because that stuff will F you up quicker than getting hit in the head with a baseball bat. And I can't keep taking aspirin because literally, I think at the height, I was taking 10 aspirin. No, not 10. 6 a day, every other day because my knee just hurt that bad. And the VA doesn't prescribe you anything except aspirin. So, yeah, I had to do something. It works. Am I 100% pain-free? No, because there's medical issues. I need an operation on my knee, a second one. But it does take the edge off. So give it a try. You got nothing to lose. Before we get into my guest when she gets here, I want to kind of cover something else. I know I talked about it last Sunday. My son was involved in an issue at his school, and I didn't know all the information. And I was going to go to the school and with his mom and talk to the principal of the school. So that happened on Tuesday at 8:30 in the morning. Me, my ex, and my son went to school. He had been out. The issue happened I believe the Wednesday, not last week, but the week before. They give you a cooling down day so you don't come to school while they investigate it. So that was Thursday. Friday, the principal we were supposed to speak to wasn't available, or we weren't available because it was short notice. Monday, the principal wasn't available. So Tuesday was the soonest. So it was like 5 days between the issues, almost 7 full days. So we go to the school, and I'd found out some things previous, and I'll get to that here in a second. We got to the principal's office with my son and my ex, and the first thing the principal wants to do, literally, first thing out of her mouth is she wants to show us the safe room. I kid you not. She said if my son ever has an issue again or he feels like overwhelmed, he can ask to go to it. It wasn't called the safe room, but that's what it was. It was a room they could go to and be alone in. And she brought us to it like she was proud of it. Like, hey, this is where we send our children. We don't teach them to cope with life. We just have them hide from it. And this is where we send them. And there's a computer and there's a little soft chair and they can sit in there as long as they want to. And then when they feel better, they can go back to class. But we're not going to teach them coping skills. We're going to teach them to hide. So you can imagine where I was at that moment in time. I was like, okay, this is going to be a joke. So we go back to the principal's office and she's talking to my son and she's like, in the future, if this happens again, I want to give you some tools how to handle it. Now, the backstory, my son at the week previous was on the playground and there's a video of this. You know how kids have phones at school. Someone recorded this. You can see my son standing facing away from the group, talking to someone. Someone runs up behind him from his right side and punches him in the side of his face from behind him. Not in front of him, doesn't come at him, comes from behind him and sucker punches him. My son didn't know the kid, had never spoken to him, had never seen him, and didn't even know he went to his school until that moment in time. The kid hits my son, and my son steps back and has his hands up. He's trying to get away, and the kid punches him again, at which point my son, who is 6'2", about 240 pounds and 14, has had enough, and he fights back and beats this kid senseless. And I fully support it. So that's what happened. Back to the principal. The principal wants to give my son some tools. So if this happens again, he can better prepare himself or better respond to it. Because if this were outside of the school on the street, he would have been arrested for this. I couldn't be quiet anymore. I really couldn't. So I said, excuse me. I said, what tools would you advise him to have if he's assaulted again? She goes, well, it's not really an assault. I said, man, that's an assault. If you're standing there minding your own business and you're not even involved with this person and that guy runs up and hits you, that's an assault. And you have a God-given right, if not a legal right, to defend yourself. And I said, within reason. If someone hits you, you can't hit him with a baseball bat. Within reason. And she said, no, it wouldn't have mattered. I'm like, yes, ma'am. If I'm walking to my car now, or if you leave school and you're walking to your car, and somebody runs up and hits you, you have every right to defend yourself. And you're not going to get in trouble because you're defending yourself. So why is it okay for you and me and adults to do that, but we're telling children, no, you need to stand there, take a beating, and hope a teacher's close enough around you to help you. And if not, you just got to run or whatever it is you're going to do. So she couldn't tell me what tools my son should have to avoid that in the future because there are no tools. And then she was saying something. I said, that's also not a crime. You can't be telling my son what he did is illegal because it's not. And I said, apparently my son told me that this issue was on a Tuesday. I'm sorry, it was Tuesday. My son on a Monday went to your vice principal and said, hey, look, there's a couple of kids telling me they're going to jump me. What do I do? And your vice principal's response was, there's nothing I can do about that. Go back to class. What? Is that what you tell a kid? Obviously, the kid's that worried about it, and he's come to you personally to say something. You should address it. Like, hey, I'm a little busy right now. Go back to class. I'll come get you in a couple of minutes. We'll sit down and talk about this, and we'll figure out what we're going to do. You don't tell the kid there's nothing I can do about that. Go back to class. That's ridiculous. But that's a vice principal at this school. That's his input into the whole situation. Pretty much, I don't care. Go back to class. So I asked the principal about that. I said, what's up with that? Why? Where is that gentleman? Why is he not here in the conference with us? I would like to hear his explanation of why he said that to my son when my son came to him, like you're saying he should do, and then it was turned away. So I'd like to hear that. He's like, well, he's busy. I said, well, he needs to unbusy himself. She never went and got him either. Conversation goes on, and you can tell. And I was trying to be polite. But I was really, really upset with the whole situation that they're treating and they called my son an aggressor. So my son goes, I don't want to say her name yet because there's some things going on in the background. My son goes, I have a video of the fight. Let me show you so you can see what I did. I didn't do anything. Her response was, I don't care about the video. I don't want to see it. So I said, so what we're going to do is we're going to sit here and you're going to run on soul emotion and feelings. And you're going to go on what kids said when all you got to do is watch a video and all that goes out the window. We have facts. We'll be dealing with facts because here's a video. Video doesn't lie. It shows what it shows and doesn't what it doesn't. Why aren't we going to look at the video? I don't understand. That would answer all the questions we have. Well, I wouldn't even have to talk anymore. We could just watch the video. She wasn't interested, did not want to see the video, didn't care about the video, didn't care what it showed. So I said, so what we're saying is in Frederick County, Maryland, Frederick County Public Schools, facts don't matter. It's more what you feel, and that's what we're going to go on. I mean, like the safety room, it serves no purpose in the real world, but it makes you feel better that you can put kids in there. I said, you told my son if he feels threatened again, he can go there. So what we're going to do is punish my son and separate him from everybody and put him in this room rather than the person who caused the fight. We're going to deal with the victims and make them feel like they've done something wrong by putting them away from everybody, keeping them away from their classmates, put them in a room. I said, that doesn't sound reasonable. I said, that sounds like I said, you're punishing a victim. I said, and number two, my son went to your vice principal and told him, hey, I have a problem. I need help. And your vice principal didn't care. Go back to class. I said, so maybe we should be talking about the tools you guys need to start using when this situation arises and not what he needs to or what these other kids need to, because it sounds like they're doing what they're supposed to and you're deciding to ignore it. And I said, obviously, that wasn't a wise decision. You had 4 fights that day. So maybe you all need to stop trying to worry about the safe room and hugs and community circles and talking about things and start focusing on the real world. If somebody asks for help, you give them help or you do what you can for it. I said, and why did nobody call his mother or myself to let us know about this? If you had a conversation with him, and she did, she said the next day she sat him down and asked a 14-year-old kid, do you feel safe? Do you want somebody to walk with you or do something with you during the day while you're at school? And of course, he said no, because no kid wants a teacher following him around. Kids just want to belong. They want to fit in. They don't want to stand out. So I asked her, I said, well, once you talk to the child, and he told you this, why didn't you call his parents? If there was a threat of physical violence, and you believe it enough so that you talk to him, why didn't you call his parents and say, hey, look, what's going on? You know, this is what your son told us. This is what he said. How would you like us to proceed? I said, why weren't parents involved in this? Well, because we'd like to deal with the child. I said, and that didn't work out well for you, did it? Because he got jumped like he told you he was going to be jumped. So again, why weren't we notified as parents that there was a threat of violence? We've talked to your son. This is what he said. What would you like us to do? That never occurred. And that kind of upset me a little bit too, because he's a 14-year-old kid. He doesn't get to make those decisions. We get to make those decisions because we know better. I would have said, yes, have somebody kind of keep an eye on things. So the conversation kind of went like that the whole way. She got to the point where she wasn't even responding to me anymore. She was talking to my ex and Ryan's mom. And I said, well, you also have him listed in this fight as the aggressor. I said, if you'd watch this video, you would see he wasn't the aggressor. He was assaulted. He was a victim of a crime. I said, and that's going to be on his record. I said, I need that change. Well, I'm not going to change it. If you don't like what I did, you need to call the ombudsman or somebody like that. And she gave his names, and I'm going to handle it a different way because this is ridiculous. Because if they did this to my son, how many other kids have they screwed like that? Told him, hey, you're wrong for defending yourself. It's a crime. You're in trouble just as much as the person that attacked you. It's going to be on your record. Oh, and if you need some help, just go to the safe room and we'll lock you away from everybody else and make you feel different. We won't address the person doing it. And this is just a small little section of the world that I live in. This is going on. You have to imagine it's going on everywhere. Everywhere. Not just in Frederick County, not just in Maryland, but everywhere. These liberals have infiltrated every facet of society, and they're bringing their sick, twisted, cancerous beliefs and forcing them on everybody else. Do I think kids should be in school fighting? No, I don't. I really don't. But do I think a kid should have to stand there and take a beating because he doesn't want to get in trouble? No. Rest assured, if I'm walking to my car and somebody attacks me, I'm going to do what I got to do to get out of there safely. And just because I'm an adult doesn't make it right. Kids have the same rights as I do. They should not have to stand there and feel like they have to get beat up or they're going to get in trouble. I think it's ridiculous. We're raising a nation of victims. People are going to blame everybody else. Goddamn safe for them. Let's not teach kids to cope with stuff. Let's just lock them off, make them feel different. So I told my son after we left the principal's office that number one, you did nothing wrong. I've seen the video. I know the facts. You did nothing wrong. You were standing there. Kid runs up from behind you, punches you in the face. You took a step back to try to avoid it. He came at you again and you beat his ass. You've done nothing wrong in my book. If that happens again, you do what you got to do. I said, but if you start a fight, we're going to have a problem. Don't be a bully. But if this happens again, and I don't think it will, because the kid literally was like 5'2", 120 pounds. And I told you my son's 6'2", 240. I don't know what the kid was thinking. I really don't. And of all the kids in the playground, my son would have been the last kid I'd have picked on if I were that size. I'd have picked on a third grader, not somebody who looks like they work in the school. But I told him he did nothing wrong. He has nothing to be afraid of. I'm not going to punish him. His mother is not going to punish him. And then he defended himself. My father, his grandfather's a retired police officer, told him the same thing. You defended yourself. It's not illegal. You're allowed to defend yourself. There's no law in the world that says you have to stand there and take a beating until the police arrive. You're allowed to defend yourself within reason. Okay, let me bring on my guest, Jamie Brennan. She's been on here before. She's running for Board of Education in Frederick County. She's going to talk about a program that's coming up in Frederick County. And I'm telling you, if it's happening here, it's going to be happening other places. So let me bring her on. Hey, how are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
I'm worked up, but I'm always worked up.
I can tell.
So just real quick, reintroduce yourself to people that didn't see the last time you were here.
Hi, I'm Jamie Brennan. I am running for Frederick County Board of Education. I'm a mom. I got 2 high schoolers. I'm a former treasurer and former board trustee member for Frederick Classical Charter School, and I'm a CPA by profession.
Professional bean counter.
Pretty much.
Detail oriented. That's what it means. You're very detail oriented. So, and I'll say this again with you here. I tell everybody, I know that people are like, well, I don't care what's going on in Frederick County. It's got nothing to do with me. It does. If it's happening here, it's either happening now or will be happening elsewhere in the nation. It's not just a Frederick County issue. It's a public schools in general issue.
Yes, yes.
So everybody needs to know about this and need to start paying attention to what's going on, going to their board meetings and listening. So why don't you tell everybody what it's called? What is it? Boardroom?
Base Camp.
Base Camp. Tell them about Base Camp. Like, what is Base Camp?
So Base Camp is a web-based app that has been initiated by this group called Green Space Health. And so Green Space Health is actively working with school districts across the country to get a base camp for other districts. I've heard from friends in other states who have said that, yes, they've heard this come up. They've seen them talk about it. In Maryland, it's kind of being tied in with all the money from the blueprint and these wraparound health services. So Green Space is just one company looking to get a piece of the pie from all these school districts trying to do what they call wraparound health services. So sometimes they're called community schools. The official community schools program is largely targeting Title I kids, kids who, the school districts are districts with really high poverty rates in the country and stuff like that. They get special federal money and whatever else. And so there's this program idea to do community schools where kids can get all of their needs, medical, dental, mental health needs met at the school. And so they're piloting this kind of stuff in some, Title I schools across the country. But the idea in general is not just going to stop there. They want to roll this out to everywhere. They would like school to be a one-stop shop for the medical needs. And we've seen this already in Maryland. Last year they've tried to pass the law about pharmacists being able to give vaccines. But didn't
they talk about letting schools do that too without notifying the parents?
Well, the tricky language in that is that any adult could take the child.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So what would happen, so conceivably what could happen is like a mobile vaccine clinic rolls up to the school and the adult in charge is a teacher, administrator, and they just, walk all the kids down get their vaccine. So that's where this kind of all comes from, this whole community health, this whole wraparound services. And Green Space Health is very big into this. This is what they do. They have this bread and butter platform, and they want to get their piece of the pie.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So they created this web app called Basecamp. And Basecamp involves students in our school system, middle school and up, being able to set up their own account and access on this web app. And then they're supposed to take this 20-question mental health quiz. And they get prompted after they've registered, they get prompted every 2 weeks to go back in and retake this quiz so that we can track their mental health over the course of time.
Who has access to that information?
Well, so Green Space says that they, with regards to the quiz and that information,
right,
they say they comply with all the necessary privacy rights, that FCPS won't get even anonymized data. When you take the quiz, it tells you things like, hey, this isn't being monitored, so if you need help, you need to talk to somebody. So it's not really clear. FCPS has not publicly discussed how they intend to use this data. So right now, it doesn't seem like there really is much of a direct contact between Green Space. So I don't really know what the purpose is there.
right.
I have put in a FOIA or PIA request, public information access request, with FCPS, because I want the memorandum of understanding or the contract that we have with Green Space Health, because I hope that could, shed some more light. But in typical FCPS fashion, they couldn't just go to the drawer and get me a copy of a contract. They had to send me a letter saying it's going to take them, more than 10 days to get back to me on a contract that they should have at their fingertips. But
so let me ask you this, so just to make sure I understand it correctly. So they're going to allow students middle school and up. So that's what, 12 and up, about 12 years old.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
So 12 years and old, they're going to allow them to get onto an app that will ask them personal medical questions, and they'll have to go back every 2 weeks. And this is all without the parents' knowledge. So the parents don't know what the questions are or what questions they're answering. And nobody knows if anybody's going to collect this data and use it. But this is all done under the guise of one community school, where everything can be done.
It's part of the wraparound health services. It's part of our blueprint for education, which we've talked about before. It's just, an ongoing disaster. So when I first found out about Basecamp, my first reaction was like, no. I don't even know what it was at the time. I had not even looked at it. I was just like, no. So I immediately wrote to the school and I said, hey, and I had several friends who also saw the notice and came and were like, what are we doing? This can't. And I wrote and I said, yeah, where's my opt out? Like, we're not doing this. And so they wrote me back and they said, oh, the school is an opt-in, and the students don't have to do it and all this other stuff. And so at the time, now I know a little different now, but at the time I assumed we had like a global account. You know how that is, like if a corporate has a corporate account and each person logs in, but somehow it's controlled over who the users are. You know what I mean? So you have to say, I am the user and this is my login, this is my email, whatever. Yeah. And that lets the global account know that you are authorized, right? So at first, I kind of suspected it was going to be like that. And so I was like, okay, yeah, how do I make sure my child does not have a login? Like, we're not even doing this as an opt-in. Like, you will not set up an account for my child. Like,
fair enough.
And they wrote me back and they said, well, there's no parental opt-out. There's no option for parents to block access to this app. None. And so, that as a staunch parental rights advocate,
oh yeah,
I was not having that. And I have fought with the school system for the last several years over parental rights issues and abuses, and that's a huge part of my campaign. I am done with this stuff. You are not the parent of my child. Get your nose out of my business. So I was really, the attitude and the snarkiness in
Oh,
the email
I know about
response
that.
to me, I was like, all right, game on. Like,
Good.
you know what I mean? We're not having this. And I thought, well, I'm not going to get anywhere with this. So now I'm going to start talking to people.
Good.
And I'm going to start talking to parents about what this is,
You should.
and to the community members. So then I thought, okay, well, let me. I want to experience this thing myself. So I went on to figure out, because I have kids in the school.
Right.
I figured I would just they hadn't heard of it yet. It hadn't been rolled out to them. So the idea was they're going to roll this out, but I've since heard from some FCPS employees that are like, look, there's not a lot of teacher or administrator buy-in on this right now. And so they're not making a priority rollout. So we probably have a lot of kids who haven't seen it yet. My son was one of them. So I decided, all right, I would try to kind of go in. I would just see what it was and act like I was logging in as him, and see what it would do for me. Well, it didn't require an FCPS email. It didn't require an FCPS student number, nothing like that. It just let me set up an account, make up a name, use my own personal email addresses, and it let me into this system. So I took the quiz, and I actually took the quiz while made up a Zoom meeting and took the quiz while screen sharing, so I could record all the activity of the quiz. So it would be permanently documented. I wanted to know. And plus I wanted to do it in 2 weeks to see if my questions have changed. So it's my own. So I went through all the questions, and I will say this. If you are a mentally healthy person doing these questions, right, you probably think it's dumber than any stupid Facebook quiz you have ever taken. It is what crap out of the magazine, right? But if you are a mentally unhealthy person, it is asking you questions like, do you think about death? It's asking, yes, it asks you questions like, are you so sometimes feel so down that you can't get out of bed, that you can't do normal activities? It asks you questions along the line of anxiety and other things. And so at the end of the quiz, so if you are a child who's prone to that,
right,
that now it's encouraging you to ruminate on this, to focus on it. And we know the kids who ruminate on the status of their mental health actually makes their mental health decline.
Yes.
To document this. Yes. And so even on a mentally healthy kid who might be, down on a particular day, now are you introducing thoughts into their head that is going to lead to a mental health problem? And if you already have a child struggling with mental health issues, is this exacerbating it, and or is it conflicting with any type of ongoing therapy that they may have been told? They may be working with a therapist who's telling them not to think about their mental health, right, and you're given this app, and it's being encouraged. So for all those reasons, obviously that's bad. It's a very bad quiz.
Well, I agree. Yeah.
The problems, but I wanted to take it to the next level and see what else this does. So at the end of your quiz, you get this little graphic that tells you basically how you're feeling, and 3 key areas. I'm telling you, it's like a Vogue quiz. All right. I'm in the simplicity and the kind of just juvenile approach to things, it's so dumb, but also dangerous. You know what I mean? Yeah. From a person who's an adult and who's mentally not have any mental health issues, it was a level of ridiculousness. And so, that's it. But I can see all the ways that it's very, very concerning. So at the end of your little quiz, and you get your little scorecard, it gives you 3 resources that you may be interested in. So I, of course, went through and checked all the boxes, things are bad. Sometimes I don't want to, most of the time I don't want to get out of bed. You know what I mean? I wanted to see what it was going to do.
Right.
Or, offer me up for a kid who's obviously struggling. So the first time I did it, because I did it twice. The first time I did it, I plugged in all this stuff as if I was a 15-year-old girl. and I, everything is bad. And so the article, the three resources I got was like, one was, linked to suicide hotline type, and total legit, fine,
Right.
One was a link to an NIH, information on NIH about, depression or whatever. And,
Okay.
it was clinical. I don't see how it would be worthwhile to a 15-year-old girl and how much they would get out of it, but it was clinical and reasonable.
Did it say anywhere, hey, talk to your parents?
No.
Go get your parent. Oh.
No, none of that. We're not having that. And then the last article was a link to some random like mental health site, like I want to say like Psychology Today, but it wasn't that. It was like something equally like non-authoritative.
Okay.
And the article was, what to do. It was basically an article geared towards parents whose children are cutting. So I'm like, here you went to a girl, you gave this article to my daughter, that I answered the questions, and we never talked about cutting. None of the questions were about cutting. None of the questions indicated we had an issue with cutting. And here you've gone and given them an article designed for parents, not for children.
Right.
An article that talks about cutting. So I'm like, you have just introduced an idea to my child, that they may not have ever known. So, and I'm like, so I'm furious. I'm like, because that's so irresponsible.
Yes.
And
I agree.
Just to go back one thing before you take the quiz, you sign off as the user for Basecamp's terms of service. Now, I'm not sure how many of our kids 12 to 17 have the legal authority to agree to a terms of service, right? But they all are in order to access this. So that was irritating. But in the terms of service, Basecamp specifically disclaims any responsibility for the third-party resources that it links to your child. So when it links the suicide helpline, it's disclaiming authority, but it's also any responsibility, but it's also disclaiming any responsibility for any other third-party links. So I got those three, and I was like, all right, like, what else we got? Because now I'm curious. What are these resources? Like, I expected actual resources, not random articles from 2019 from, like some type of self-help website. I mean, so I started clicking on the resources tab screen. And so now I'm really concerned because I just started at the top and it took me hours and hours and hours. And so I've only made it through the first like 25 or so. But the first handful of them were links to an app, like to go download an app for your phone or, and the apps were all like mental health games, like about like, challenge, getting over your, they're for different things like anxiety or depression, whatever. And so I clicked on the privacy settings for those apps and they basically clearly disclose they're data mining you. You know what I mean? So and then I clicked on, like I said, some of the articles and some of the resources with direct links to like actual real public health, organizations. But the ones that were links to private websites that were just, had an interesting article, I guess, they had ads, Google ads popped up on all of my things. So we know how Google ads work, right?
Yeah.
And then the one website I went to was specifically the resource that popped up first. The first one I came to, I should say, in the list that was directed to gender and sexuality questioning kids. And so I clicked on that link. So right away, this is not a link I want my children to have access to. And the corner, it's got like a quick escape button, because if you're, if your sites, they all have a quick escape, so you can click it and, it takes you back to the Google, screen right away to hide from the parents. But that site is called, I don't know how they pronounce it, but it's
You're breaking up.
I don't know if that's IME or IME or something. But
Yeah, you're freezing and breaking up now. Now you're like completely frozen. Unless you're doing it yourself, like not moving. I think we might have lost her.
oh, sorry.
Nope. Back.
Sorry.
You're like coming in a teeny little bit. If you're saying something I can't hear you, it's frozen.
I wasn't saying anything. Are you
Okay, well then we're good.
Can you hear me
Now you're good again. Now you're good.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Sorry. So
Okay.
the resources tab for the IMI gender and sexuality questioning children resource, that tab had links to chat rooms and chat applications. Yes. And some of those chat rooms said chat with your peers. And by peers, they, the limit was up to age 19. One of them had a phone chat link as a resource. And you could talk with people up to 25. So your 14-year-old daughter could end up in a chat room and chatting with a 19-year-old or 20-year-old or whatever. And we know, obviously, that, a lot of people who find their way into sex trafficking and sexual abuse relationships, they find their victims in chat rooms, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, we know that this happens. So, and among the other resources was a thing called, queer sex ed. So there was a link to that, so you could watch videos made by this group of young adults talking about various things that they wish they had known younger as queer teenagers as they were becoming sexually active. So those are the links off of that group. And I didn't continue, there was a couple more. And like I said, the articles and dumb stuff like that. So, but I haven't gone through the rest of them. There's 100 resources.
Oh, nice.
And so I've made it through about a quarter of them. But these are all the offensive things I've already found, right? So I don't know how much worse it's going to get, but
probably a lot.
But, so it's like FCPS gave access to our kids to a site to take a stupid mental health quiz, which is either going to be laughed at by mentally healthy kids or the source of additional anxiety, stress, and mental health problem for children who are already mentally struggling with their mental health.
Yep.
And then from there, it links us to a bunch of nonsense resources. And some of them are going to be actually damaging to our kids. And the site, Basecamp specifically disclaims liability, says you're leaving our site. When you click on it, it says, hey, you're leaving Basecamp. We can't control what's out there. But you put it in front of my child. You gave this to them. So it's like, you're like, hey, we're not responsible for any of this crap that we're going to give you. I mean, it's so unbelievable. It is so angering as a parent. The fact that, and I feel like, did anybody at FCPS actually click through this stuff? I mean, and it's in other places. Yeah, I see somebody pop up and say, yeah, it's in other places. This is their business model, is to go into these school systems. We're certainly not the only one. And to my knowledge, and I'm pretty avid, and I asked board members, it never came up to FCPS to approve specific participation in this. There's never been any public presentation of this app before it's rolled out to kids. And this is how they roll, but this is how it's going to happen in other school districts too. So I'm just trying to get the word out there about what's actually in this thing, and why nobody should be participating in it, and why you should be absolutely furious that the school has introduced this to your children.
And it's called Basecamp, correct?
Basecamp, yes.
And I'm sure it's like I said before we started, that what's happening in Frederick County just isn't happening in Frederick County. It's everywhere. And if it's not there yet, it's going to be there soon enough.
No,
So
this is a
people
big
need,
national organization
oh, yeah.
that is rolling this out.
And parents need to know that, hey, you need to get involved, get off your butts, put down your cell phones, get into a meeting, go introduce yourself to your kids' teachers, let them know you're going to be that parent.
Yes, yes.
I'm not sitting back anymore. I'm going to be involved. And if that's a problem for you, it sounds like a you problem, not a me problem.
Right, right.
And I hope parents do. I mean, it's hard to get people excited about the Board of Education. And I mean, I'm sure you know that now. I mean, it's not a sexy position. It's not like, ooh, Board of Education. People overlook it because nobody wants to say teachers don't know what they're doing, because then you're anti-teacher.
Right.
No, I'm pro kid. I'm more concerned about the students than I am about the teachers. Don't care about the teachers. It's the kids I'm concerned about. And people need to start looking at it that way. But it's spitting into the wind.
I was at the Frederick Fair for several days last week, talking to voters. And, there was a fair amount of people who were like, oh, I don't bother to vote in the Board of Education race. I don't know anybody in that race. I'm like, all right, well, you know me now.
Yeah, now you know me.
But you got a lot. I mean, people just, they turn it off. They're like, oh, well, those are the experts. And I'm like, they are not an expert in my child. They didn't carry that child for 9 months. They didn't raise that child. They're not an expert in my child. They might have expertise in how to deliver information in a way that's supposed to be easier for a child to learn, but they are not an expert in my child and what my child needs. I'm sorry.
Well, it seems to me that most, and again, if I offend people, I don't care. Most uninformed, uneducated voters are overly impressed with letters after somebody's name. Like, oh, he's got a PhD. He must be an expert. Some of the dumbest people I've met in my entire life are college educated. Just because you go to college doesn't all of a sudden make you the authority whenever you took. It just means you were there. You didn't miss a lot of class. You remembered a lot of stuff and passed some tests. You got a degree. And I'm not denigrating college. So I don't want nasty emails. I'm just saying I'm not impressed by it. There was a stage in my life where that was very impressive. Like, oh, you got a PhD. You must be a genius. I'll go to you for everything. But as you get older, like me, you start to realize, yeah, you might know a little bit more about this than I do. You might be more book smart, but that doesn't mean you have worldly knowledge. It won't translate to that. So I'm not impressed. And every time somebody goes, well, we need to hire teachers for the Board of Education. Really? You mean the same teachers that can't teach, that can only teach 45% of kids to read proficiently? The same teachers can only teach math to 60% of the students. You want them running the entire system, because what could go wrong with that? I haven't had a stroke yet. That's the crazy thing. It's going to happen on one of these shows. I'm going to be talking to somebody. I'm just going to go, and I'm going to fall off screen. And what's going on here? Where did it go?
I hope not. But I thank you for letting me talk with you and get my spiel about base camp out, because I really think this is something we got to raise awareness to.
Oh, yes.
When I found out about it and I got that snarky email reply, I'm like, oh, I said to my friends, like, ladies, I have found my new hill, right? Like this, I'm not going to let this go. It's not happening. What is your
website? So if people want to go and donate and help your campaign, they can.
Brennan, BRENNAN 4 FOR board.com.
Okay. So if anybody's watching, you don't have to live in Maryland or even Frederick County to help Jamie. She's a conservative. Conservatives need to help conservatives. Donate $5, $10, $15, whatever you can to help her, because we need to get people like her on the board, or all this is for nothing. We're wasting our time if we keep allowing liberals to educate our children. Nothing else matters. These are the most important elections in any cycle of the Board of Education elections. You can, when you get more of those resources you click on with that, come back and let us know what you found and what they're doing, because I'd like to hear more about that too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming, Jamie. You have a good evening, and I'm sure I'll talk to you later this week at some point.
All right, thanks. Thank you for having me.
Have a good one.
You too.
Bye-bye. So that was Jamie Brennan. She's running for Board of Education in Frederick County. Again, what she's talking about, base camp, is going to be everywhere. It's not just going to be in Maryland. Don't think it's just going to stay in Frederick County. It's going to spread, and you need to know, you need to be involved in your child's education. Go to the Board of Education meetings. Raise your voice. Be heard. You're fighting for your child. It's that simple. A lot of things you can kind of let roll off your back, but when it comes to your children, no. Fight. Be a bear. Be a loudmouth. Be that parent. Be the one that when they see you coming into school, like, oh my God, that guy's back again. Demand answers. Stand up for your kids. Don't let the school tell you what's right and what's wrong with them. You're their parent. You have final say. Don't forget that. So yeah, Jamie Brennan, like I said, excuse me, Brennan for board. Go there, check our website out. If you like what she says, donate a few bucks. Doesn't matter if you don't live there. We need to get as many conservatives around the country elected. We got to help however we can. Excuse me. Before we go, I again wrote a little something, and I wanted to read to you all. It's about the dangers of a Kamala Harris presidency. Again, this is my opinion. You don't have to listen to it. You don't even have to agree with me. Just what I feel. I want to share it with you because you're all pretty smart people. A potential Kamala Harris presidency presents significant concerns for the future of this country. While many point out her rise as a symbol of progress, a closer look at her track record and political approach reveals many serious risks that could undermine both domestic and international stability. One of the key dangers lies in her inconsistent and opportunistic political positions. Harris has frequently and often and almost daily shifted her stances to align with whatever is politically popular at the time. We talked about that earlier. From flip-flopping on Medicare for all to backpedaling on criminal justice reform promises, Harris has shown a willingness to change her views in pursuit of power and votes. The lack of firm principles suggests that, as president, she would govern based on political expediency rather than solid, coherent vision or a set of solid values. Such inconsistency will erode trust in leadership, leading to disillusionment and division among the electorate. On the international stage, Harris's inexperience poses a particular risk. As vice president, she has yet to demonstrate a strong foreign policy acumen, often coming across as unprepared or vague when addressing critical global issues. In a world where geopolitical tensions are very high, and they are, you got China, you got North Korea, we've got the Middle East, everything's going crazy. You got Russia. I mean, it's insane. In a world where geopolitical tensions are high, from the rise of authoritarianism to complex relations with China and Russia, a president without a clear and confident foreign policy approach very well could jeopardize national security. We cannot afford a leader who is reactive rather than proactive in matters that could have long-lasting global consequences. Moreover, Harris's reliance on identity politics rather than substantive policy debate is another troubling factor. While representation is important, it cannot substitute for real leadership. A presidency based primarily on optics rather than concrete solutions risks prioritizing political symbolism over meaningful change, leaving the nation's deeper problems unaddressed. A Kamala Harris presidency, with its unpredictability, lack of firm principles or values, and questionable track record, could steer the country in a dangerous direction. Leadership requires more than just ambition and charisma. It requires consistency, wisdom, and the ability to unite a divided nation. Unfortunately, Harris has yet to prove that she possesses any of those qualities, and the risks of her occupying the highest office in the land are far too great to ignore. Those are just my opinions. I don't think she's ready for the presidency. I don't think she's ready to be vice president. We cannot allow her to win this election. We need to vote for Trump. Get your friends to vote for Trump. Get your families to vote for Trump. Get your coworkers to vote for Trump. If we don't vote for Trump, stuff like base camp and the stuff that happened with my son in his school and the things that are going on in this country are just going to spread, and they're going to get worse because they'll be unchecked. This is our time to take a stand. This is our time to defend common sense. And that's what we need back in the White House is common sense. Or this country's going to go to hell in a handbasket pretty quick. So November 5th, vote. Ignore the polls that they're showing you now. Ignore everything you're hearing. Vote. Vote like your life depends on it, because it does. This is a very serious election. And I'm not going to say it again because everybody says it, but we need to vote. It's very important. Get out there, vote, make your voices heard. We can't sit back anymore. Can't be on the sidelines. We can't wait for somebody else to do it. Now is the time, and you are the person. You need to do it. Collectively, we all need to do it. So grab a helmet and get in the game. It's the fourth quarter, and it's a tie ball game, and there's not much time left on the clock. We need to win. We need to win. It's very important. Again, I've kept you on longer than I should have. I apologize. I'm sure you got more important things to do than watch me ramble on and get all upset and angry and pointing and all that. So thank you. Alexandra Levine is on here. She does Alexandria 360 on Tuesdays at 9. Watch her show. Very good show. Very good person. Very smart. And she's a fellow tribesman. So, of course, I support her. You got the Based Mother, who's on Wednesday mornings and Friday evenings. She's big into schools and education and public education. Watch her. Very smart person. Has a lot to say. You got 2 guys in 1 coup. Good group of guys. 2 guys. 2 guys, 1 coup, obviously. So it's 2 guys. Good guys, know their stuff. I'm always afraid to say that name because I'm afraid I'm going to go, hey, make sure you watch 2 guys in 1 cup. And I know that's why I'm afraid I was going to slip out and I'm going to get those guys mad at me. So it's 2 guys, 1 coup. Get that straight. 2 guys, 1 coup. If you have any questions about anything I talked about, you can reach me on, excuse me, you can reach me on X, tweet, or Twitter. Now it's X. Let me get that up there for you. Right there, the Conserve Corner at X. You can always reach me on Facebook at the Conservative Corner on Facebook. I don't go on there much because they've really restricted my account because I'm speaking the truth. But yeah, Conserve Corner is the best way to get a hold of me on X. We're on Rumble, so if you're watching Rumble right now, please hit the like button and share it. We need as much help with Rumble as we can get. You're the help, and I'm asking you for help. Support all the Patriots Prayer podcasts on Rumble. And thanks for hanging out. Again, I say it every weekend, but it's the truth. I truly appreciate the time you take out of your day to sit here and listen to me. I really do. I don't do this for me. Believe it or not, I do it. Well, I do it for me because I have to have an outlet. I have to get this stuff out, or I will vapor lock one day. But I do it for you. I want to help you all understand. I want you to think and look into things. I don't want you to blindly take anything I say as gospel. Don't just assume if I said it, it's right. Look into it for yourself. That's why I give you these things you can look up, research, talk to your neighbors about, find out for yourself. It means more if you work for something versus getting it handed to you. So please fact check everything I say. I want you to. And if you find I've said something wrong, please get a hold of me and tell me, and I'll correct it. I'm not above making mistakes. And I'll keep the thing with my son's school and how that progresses. I'll touch on it every once in a while to keep you updated if you're interested. I'm interested because I don't agree with anything that principal told my son. I don't think he was an aggressor. I don't think he was wrong for defending himself, and I will die for his right to defend himself. And I hope you will do the same for your children. If they're attacked, defend them. Defend them. Don't let the school tell them they're wrong. Don't. Be that parent. Be that parent. Wear it like a badge. November 5th, vote. If you live in the Frederick County area or the Carroll County, Washington County, Howard, Montgomery, and you can't get to the polls on the 5th, call me or contact me at CoServe Corner. I will get you there. If I can, I will find somebody who can. So you'll have no excuse not to vote if you live local to me. I will bring you there, or we'll find somebody who will. I promise. If you need help and you call me to ask for help, I will give you help. Thanks for watching. I'm here every Sunday at 7 talking about whatever's going on. If there's ever anything you want me to talk about, shoot me a message at X, or you can just post it here and I'll talk about it. I do want to say this: if you do post something and I don't see it, it's not that I'm ignoring you. I'm talking and I'm trying to catch up because it scrolls, so it moves. So I may miss something, but I'm not intentionally ignoring anything you say over here. As a matter of fact, more input makes it easier for me to do this because we can talk about things and talk about what's important to you. Because I like to talk, if you haven't noticed that yet. So yeah, that's it. That's my story. Again, thanks for coming out. I'll be here next Sunday at 7. Might have another guest. I'm not sure. I'm kind of working on it. But I'll let you know throughout the week if something's going to happen. And just remember, like I always say, as long as you vote principle over party, you'll never cast a bad vote, and you'll be able to walk out of the polls with your head held high. So always vote principle over party. Everybody have a good evening and have a good week, and I will see you next Sunday.